Good afternoon, Neil. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Certainly would. My name's Niel Cope. I'm Managing Director of People Matters HR.
Great. And the next question is, how did People Matters HR come about? How did you get to be where you are now?
Well, that's a bit of a saga in itself, really. I was, at the time, I was HR Director for quite a big charity based in Manchester. The year was 2011. If you cast your mind back to that, we were sat in the middle of a recession. And there was a lot of challenges for us, but I actually saw a lot of these challenges as quite positive opportunities for our organisation, that we could have done shared services and supported other charities with the team that I'd got. But unfortunately, my chief executive didn't really see it that way. She saw everything as a negative. And she wasn't particularly on the side of the government that had just come into power at the time, having been an ex-councillor, Manchester City councillor. So yeah, we sort of were looking at this, and I was getting more and more frustrated, and I started helping a friend who was having some staffing issues, which I was fairly nothing to me, but he really thought his business was coming to an end. And as much as I coached him, he really couldn't handle it, and I ended up going in and dealing with it as an ad hoc piece of work. And he thought I was some sort of messiah. It started as it was a kind of chance conversation. I remember saying to him, clearly sat in his garden, are there no companies that people like you can go to? Because I'd always been used to an HR department, having been a manager before I was an HR person, or in HR, to be supporting. And he just said, no, there's these big companies that cost you a fortune and get stuck in very long contracts that I've looked at, but I don't like the looks of those, so you just battle through. So I got to this point that my frustrations were getting worse. I'd always wanted to work for myself, so the idea came about to be basically a one-man band consultant initially.
Right.
So in the middle of a big recession with 5 kids and a big mortgage and no clients, I had a word with my boss and talked her into letting me go. And that was it. And I kind of walked out the streets of Manchester in August as well. That made it even worse. Little did I know how little work what happened in August. And People Matters was born.
Great. Right, that's great. So, as you know, in the business network, we always like to find out something a bit personal about our members as they sat around the table. So, nothing different here. So, passions and hobbies. When you've got a bit of spare time, apart from being dad's taxi, what do you do? What do you like?
Funnily enough, there's a link in there.
Yeah, I thought there might be.
Anything with wheels.
Yeah.
My dad was an ex-traffic policeman.
Right.
And used to rally cars. From the age of very little, we went to all sorts of different motoring things and got involved in them, and it's carried on. So anything Formula One, rallying, etc., etc.
Right.
It's got wheels. I love it, and I'm also a sucker for buying it. Right. The other side of that is my son has played rugby since he was 7.
Yeah.
I took to including playing for Lancashire this year in the under-16s. So, as you say, dad's taxi ends up being very cold on Sunday mornings, watching rugby, but seen England play a few times, and that's my spare time.
Right, and is that rugby union or rugby league? I'm never quite sure which is which.
Union, the one
union.
With the big ones push each other more.
Right. Okay. Right. So moving on. Podcasts. Do you listen to any podcasts that you can recommend?
I'm not a big podcast listener, but there's one that always sticks in my mind because it takes me back years and years of listening to this guy on the radio, going forever. The Simon Mayo's True Confessions.
Right.
Absolutely laugh aloud at them. And I think it sort of sums me up a little bit because I naturally find people funny. I like comedians, I like stand-up, I like the rest, but people say and do the funniest things, and I think that's what I like about my job. It's not all buttoned down and serious. People do funny things and say funny things, and I just find the confessions are real life things that people do that just make me laugh out loud, and to the extent that we don't sit together on a plane anymore.
Right. Well, no, I think they're still on BBC Sounds, those podcasts as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've all got a little bit more time on our hands. Any books you're reading or any you'd recommend?
I'm a big one for sort of thrillers and this sort of thing. My background was actually involved. I was an intelligence officer in the police for a long time, so I think there's a little bit of that instinct still in there. But in actual fact, my favourite book, this book, I recommend not only this book, but this guy over and over again, is Sumo. Whether you've ever heard of it. Sumo, it's Mancunian motivation, written by a guy called Paul McGee, who was born and brought up in Chorlton. He still lives in Warrington, but he's an international speaker and a friend of Will Kintage's. Paul and I first met about 12, 13 years ago, just after he'd first written this book. And Sumo stands for shut up and move on. Or stop, understand and move on. And it's just a really, really nice way of thinking about dealing with life. It's written in a very, very humorous way. It's very factual. Paul's an occupational psychologist. And since then, he's gone on to write about 10 or 12 more books. His current book is on Kindle at the moment, and it's free because of the current situation going on. And that's called How Not to Worry. I've read that one as well. But
right.
All of his books are great. You always learn a lot from them. They're very easy reading.
Great, right. Thanks for that. And finally, we're all in the same situation at the moment. We're all in lockdown. Any words of wisdom you'd like to pass on?
My words of wisdom have always been work hard and enjoy yourself and have fun. You only get one shot in life. And I think my favourite overall saying, and it's still happening even now we're in lockdown, is you miss every shot you don't take. And I remember a famous basketball player saying that once, and it just really resonated with me, that even now that we're here, my business is different to most people at the moment because we've been extraordinarily busy up to this point. But even now, we've sat back and we've said, right, okay, what else can we do to diversify and add value to clients? And we've done stuff with learning and development. We've done stuff with employee engagement. We're writing lots of guides we've not had the chance to do. And it just keeps that fire in your belly of going, well, if we miss this opportunity of having maybe 2 or 3 months of a bit more chilled out, we can probably produce a lot of really good stuff in that time. So
it's really interesting you say that, because I interviewed Chris Brinley earlier on in the week, and it was posted out, but he posted today on LinkedIn a very similar message, is that, this is the opportunity to set your goals and do things that you normally haven't got the time for. So think about the future. Yeah,
I really do agree. I mean, it's going to be nice getting a little bit of sun. I'm hoping that things are quietening down a little bit for us, that I might get some of this sun abroad and that other people have seen. But the mind doesn't stop working. I've just written a big guide this morning about how to do appraisals that I've been meaning to do for years, just as a little one-man guide. So, we just keep on challenging ourselves.
That's right. Anyway, thank you so much for this, Neil. It's been a pleasure. And you'll be out on social media very shortly.
Look forward to it.
Okay. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.